time for passive fishing. And plenty of water as well. Now, what about that flying programme? If you've got your copy of the souvenir programme and the flying display insert within it, there have been inevitably a few changes compared with the schedule as published, because of course it had to go to press a little bit before the show, and a cancellations as regards today's flying programme are the Swedish Air Force Saab SK-60. Unfortunately, the SK-60 solo display pilot is suffering from COVID, so we wish him a speedy recovery. And also, for reasons beyond our control, we've lost the US Air Force B-52 flight pasts that we were hoping to see on today's schedule. But other than that, it's all here, and the order is a little bit different in some ways to that in your souvenir programme. So let me run through it now. We start off earlier than planned, 20 to 10 rather than a quarter to. So 9:40 start with the Italian Air Force Typhoon and then the Royal Air Force Chinook HC-6A. Back to the Italians then for the third item, the T-346A Master. Then we'll be getting two of our aerobatic teams here airborne to go and join up for a very special formation, after which we've got the Swedish Air Force Gripen, and then that special formation of the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows, and the Republic of Korea Air Force Black Eagles, who are back with us for the first time since 2012, and very welcome indeed. After that, the Red Arrows will be performing their own display. That takes us through until about 25 past 11. They're followed by the Spanish Air Force EF-18M Hornet, the Hungarian Air Force Mi-24P Hind, and then at 5 to 12, we've got the Italian Air Force aerobatic team, the Frecce Tricolori. Taking us up to 1 o'clock, then we have the Hellenic Air Force demo team Zeus F-16C Fighting Falcon, the German Army NH-90, and the Royal Danish Air Force Baby Blue team of Saab supporters, giving us a complete change of pace. Between 1 and 2 o'clock, the Slovenian Air Force TC-9M, the Italian Air Force C-27J Spartan, the Royal Jordanian Falcons, and a tremendous rotary wing display by the Czech Air Force Mi-24V Hind and Mi-171 Hip. Between 2 and 3 o'clock, we have two of the star acts of the day. The Austrian Air Force Quick Reaction Alert air defence demonstration involving a C-130 Hercules and two Eurofighter Typhoons, and then the display by the Republic of Korea Air Force Black Eagles. From 3 until 4 o'clock, the US Air Force contribution to the flying, the CD-22B Osprey, the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight with the Lancaster, Hurricane and Spitfire, the Czech Air Force with the W-3 Sokol rescue helicopter, and the Royal Air Force Typhoon FGR-4 solo display. From 4 until 5 o'clock, it's the debut here of the French Air Force, French Air and Space Force, I should say now, Mustang X-Ray team of two Pilatus PC-21s. That's followed by a flying visit from the RIAT Eurofighter, the RIAT F-35B Lightning, and then it's the Belgian Air Component F-16AM Fighting Falcon. That's followed by the Hungarian Air Force Gripen and the return of the Irish Air Corps Silver Swallows aerobatic team, now mounted on 4 Pilatus PC-9Ms. And then from 5 until 6 o'clock, the final hour of the display sees the Finnish Air Force Hawk, and then the last 45 minutes are given over to the Swiss Air Force with the FA-18C Hornet and the Pilatus PC-7 team, giving us displays both individually and together.
I hope you can
The
hear us
show
loud
then
and clear.
lasting 8
We didn't want to
hours,
advertise
20
it because we
minutes,
just were not
9:40
sure
until
of the
6 o'clock.
signal here,
What
but we
a
got
day.
something, so let's hope for the best.
What outstanding value for money as well.
Fingers crossed.
Where else could you see the best military hardware in the world over a whole day like this? 8.25 hours, non-stop, back-to-back, superb activity.
Yeah, and reflecting our two main themes this year, namely the 75th anniversary of the United States Air Force and training. That's our operational theme, and indeed we've got a lot of training aircraft, as you will have gathered, through the flying program.
Morning Luca, morning Martine, morning Nathan, morning Mark Barnes.
And on the ground,
Nathan, how you
more
doing,
of those
man?
training aircraft are
Martine,
present.
hopefully we'll get
Plus,
alive. Hopefully it's
very
still
interesting
going.
display of US
Dave,
Air Force
how you doing,
aircraft,
man?
past and present.
Morning.
From
Yeah, we're in the
B-17
Garden Village, but
Fortress,
have an amazing
Sally
show.
B over from Duxford,
Food
a number
Sunday,
of
yes it is.
B-51
Hazel, morning
Mustangs,
darling,
two
how
of
are
them,
you?
B-47
We'll get Ted on the scene in a
Spitfire,
minute.
the marvellous Canadair Sabre that Fred Akavi has brought over from Avignon, right up to the latest metal. the KC-46A Pegasus, the U-2S, definitely not the latest metal, but incredibly capable to this day, and one of the most famous US Air Force aircraft, a regular sight, of course, in the skies around here. And the star of the show for many, the Boeing E-4B command post that we saw arrive so spectacularly after our flying display on Friday.
Yeah, to get emojis, it's part of the membership now. We don't charge the earth, it's literally just to support us get around the country. There are two levels of membership. Both membership have the emojis. It's $1.99 a month, and you'll get some goodies with that on the YouTube channel. You'll be able to have some special members-only polls, some members-only videos as well. Like I said, there are two levels of the membership. So you've got $1.99, which is the Bowser, and that's literally to fund us. But you'll get those emojis with it as well. You'll be able to have priority replies to comments. You'll also get shout-outs as well. You'll also be able to have members-only privileges, such as being able to have some videos as well. But the squadron membership is $4.99 a month, and that has all the perks of the Bowser. But you'll get like the blooper videos, unreleased footage. You'll also get Ted's music videos as well, which are quite fun. You'll also get a little bit of footage that I can't quite put on the regular channel, but you'll understand why. Sometimes things get in the way, and I get a little bit emotional about it, but it can be right laugh to watch. So yeah, that kind of thing. There are sometimes some live streams just for members only, but we don't do too many of them because I know we like to get, it's a family channel, it's for everyone. We like to get people to interact and to basically have a laugh with this guy. I know. So yeah, so you can hit the join button if you want, and you'll be able to get emojis. You can cancel any time as well if you're worried about that, but it starts at $1.99 a month.
Flying at 600 knots on their high-speed path, they will cover that distance in approximately 10 to 12 seconds.
Morning from sunny Devon.
As far as orientation is concerned, as you face the display line, you are looking north, which is putting the sun behind you at midday, which makes Fairford again the perfect location for a flying display. The Fairford runway is orientated east to west, and as with all airfields, it's designated by the magnetic direction rounded up to the nearest 10
What's
degrees.
that, Ted?
So here we have runway
We've got some special
27,
guests.
which we will be using primarily today, with a reciprocal of 09, which is
Red Ted?
0 west,
I'm not Ted.
090 east. Runways
Ted Sheeran. We've got Ted Sheeran here, everyone. We've got Ted Sheeran who's going to be singing a song. So we'll. I'm sure. I know you want to see the air show. I know. Don't get me wrong. But Ted's brought some special guests with him. So we've got Red Ted and Ted Sheeran.
In support of D-Day, taking off into wind was absolutely essential back then.
Hi Wenda, I hope you're well.
Now safety rules for flying displays are strictly enforced, and they are there for everybody's safety. So a quick virtual tour around RAF Fairford will see that the Restricted Airspace Temporary, or the RIAT, is set up to keep non-display aircraft clear of the immediate display area, and beyond that, to keep the holding point clear for aircraft waiting to run in. From a display crew's perspective, having sanitised and dedicated airspace for displaying is absolutely essential. That said, air traffic control, both here at RAF Fairford and also the radar team across at RAF Bright Norton, and the flight control
I know it's loud, I'm going to have to
constantly
leave
scanning the display area.
I don't want to touch it.
And will always terminate through the display temporarily if required.
I'm sure the aircraft will drown it out, but
the layout of the airfield and the display line is important too, and must be consistent with other venues throughout the season and any location, whether it be in the UK or overseas. The crowd line is the line marked by the fence, which is as close as you can get to the runway. We then have a number of other lines which are visible to the displaying crews, which are the closest that an aircraft may display to the crowd, depending upon the weight, vector and the speed. Here at Fairford, conveniently, the northerly edge of the runway is the 150 metre line, which is used by rotary aircraft in non-aerobatic flight. We then have the 230
You're going to sing a song later, right?
Marked by a series of day-glow boards, which you should be able to see as you get closer to the front. They are parallel to the runway, and this is actually the default display line for all aircraft. However, For aircraft whose speed is greater than 300 knots and with a vector towards you, we then have the 450 metre line which they must display to, which falls just the far side of the hangar. And to ensure that displays stay aligned with the centre of the cloud, which is really important on a windy day, less so today, we have two day glow markers called display datum, which are directly in front of the RIAT enclosure, marked with the two display orange day glow boards with BAE Systems board in front of it. Now today's wind is light and variable and will not be moving anything from left to right. However, on a pretty standard day here, where we have 10 to 15 knots on the surface from the west, and probably 20 knots at display height.
Sorry, that's me just...
Display crews under those circumstances would be working very, very hard to stay on crowd centre. And this is achieved very cleverly by extending into wind and shortening downwind tracks. So flying further to the left as you look at it, and less distance out to the right. In fact, with today's winds, there will be no corrections required. But with a 20-knot wind day, if there were no corrections, the whole display would drift 2 miles to the right, and clearly not be fit for purpose. And this, of course, goes not just for light aircraft, like you might think, but for heavy metal fast jets as well, isn't it? Every aircraft is airborne, therefore it moves with the air, irrespective of how much you weigh or how fast you're actually travelling. And finally, to monitor all of the rules, we have the Flight Control Committee, a group of highly experienced, serving and retired RIAT pilots and navigators under the leadership of Tim Cadman. They have been incredibly busy working with the Flying Display Director, Roger Steele, for the last 4 months, scrutinising all display routines to ensure they meet today's regulations.
VIP movement out incidentally, just while we're talking, US Air Force C-37A, and then very new machine from the Swiss Air Force, the Pilatus PC-24 of a type we've seen on a RIAT display day before.
That's so much better now, can move it up and down.
So the Flight Control Committee now standing on the air traffic control tower. As I say, their work goes back 4 months. They've been looking at all the display routines to ensure they meet UK and European regulations and are suitable for the geographic constraints of RIAT, which is very,
tally
very
there, Gaza 29,
2 mile display line, very different from the majority of other displays around the country. The only thing we don't have control over, however, is the weather. However, what a perfect day we've got lined up in front of us. Yes, indeed, the best canvas of all against which to watch a flying display. With the exception of those slight high clouds, we do expect to be a feature of today, but nonetheless, no weather problems expected, and of course,
Morning, Guy.
An awful lot of action in the skies to enjoy between 9:40 and 6 o'clock today. And just one last thing on the weather, it is relatively dry. The humidity is a bit lower than it was yesterday, so pretty slim chance of seeing any vapour balls coming off of the higher performing aircraft. However, with that beautiful background, it doesn't really matter. Now, one thing we should say before we get underway with the flying is, obviously and quite rightly, many of you will have brought gazebos, windbreaks or umbrellas with you to help provide you with a bit of shade. Very sensible precaution. However, we do ask you please to make sure you keep a good hold on them, particularly when we've got any helicopters displaying, because the rotor wash, even given the display distances that Mark was talking about, can lift them into the air.
Here we go.
Please do keep control of your runway. With the wind from the south today, anything that gets picked up by the wind will make its way towards the runway and the airfield, which is something that we really
So the guy's going to get a bit wobbly.
I think you were saying yesterday how much POD, foreign object debris, foreign object damage, however we want to explain it, costs the Air Force in a given year. Yeah, it costs the Air Force and the aviation industry globally.
Nice there, Typhoon 123.
Each year, and of course it is a flight safety
flight and enjoy.
Tomorrow, the airfield will be FOD applauded by primarily the RIAT Cadet, so big thanks to them. But let's bear in mind, everybody, please, that the less rubbish that you drop and leave behind, the less time they will be spending here tomorrow walking the 2-mile airfield in temperatures of up to 34, 35, 36 degrees. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yes, do keep your rubbish with you or take it home, put it in a bin. It will be recycled, it won't be going to landfills. We're being as green as possible here. So those are all very sensible precautions and all help us have a safe day here at RIAT 2022.
You're watching that.
So despite not being here for the last 3 years, I can assure you that the Royal Air Force has been incredibly busy. A number of operations that have been conducted over that period of time. Op Rescript was our support for the pandemic. Operation Pitting was the evacuation of Afghanistan. Operation Fortis was the UK carrier strike deployment. RAF High Wycombe saw the stand-up of UK Space Command, and Oxshada continues in the Middle East with Operation to defeat Daesh. More recently, air policing and other activities with our NATO colleagues in Europe in response to the events in Ukraine. And of course, just a month ago, we put around 70 aircraft in perfect formation to the second over the top of Buckingham Palace to celebrate Her Majesty the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. But despite all of this, we are here in force today. To the easterly end of the showground is the RAF Experience, showcasing everything that supports our success on ops. Look for the Atlas A400M. It's a big 10-acre site, and please set aside at least an hour to go and visit our finest people. And we'll be reflecting further on a lot of those RAF operations as the day goes on, and we see some of the relevant types like the Typhoon and the F-35 in our display. But now we're going to get underway the flying here on the final day of the Royal International Air Tattoo 2022. And it's with great pleasure that I hand you over to the Italian Air Force in the form of Flight Test Engineer Michele Palumbo.
Thank you very much, Ben. So we are proud to kick off the air show today. Anyway, let's get started with a wee story. In 1923, 99 years ago now, the Italian Air Force was established as the second oldest independent air force in the world. 5 years earlier, the Naval Air Service and the Flying Corps of the United Kingdom joined together to form the Royal Air Force, securing under the Union Jack the historic primacy. Yet, many world records were set by the Italian first planes. The memory of extraordinary deeds, great men and women, deserve to be preserved, even though the aviation in its early years was misused as propaganda tool, and the chauvinist regime mistakenly chose to slide off the fence of neutrality on the wrong side. Since 1945, the winds have been spreading in the right direction again. We moved from fighting against to fighting abreast. The Royal Air Force has been operating common system and working along with the Aeronautica Militare in great unprecedented undertakings. Some of them have made history, some possible yet to come, and another one is called Eurofighter, Typhoon. I am pleased now to welcome you aboard this boisterous common friend of ours, which goes by the name Typhoon. I'm usually alone in my commentator's box, being the show commentator for the flight test department displays in Italy and abroad, but luckily today joining me one of the most talented and youngest test pilots for the Italian Air Force. He has just turned 32 and is already an experienced jockey and boasts a great deal of experience under his belt in operative roles and as test pilots as well. So jot down these names because they are going to come across it again and again over the next edition of the Royal International as demo pilots. So welcome, Captain Mattia Lucerelli.
Buongiorno RIAT, buongiorno. I'm very pleased to be here. My first time here, RIAT 2022.
So Mattia, are you ready to introduce the people into the secrets that lie behind the Eurofighter Delta-shaped Typhoon?
Will be a pleasure for me.
So let's get started then. So the Eurofighter Typhoon represents the most advanced combat aircraft design ever made in Europe, the result of international cooperation between the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy and Spain. Can you tell any difference between the UK version and the Italian one?
Really no differences other than source, boat and the aircraft is pretty much the same. Ready for takeoff now.
So let's see her in action. We are about to start with a high performance takeoff.
Yes, excellent demonstration now also of the fuel system and engines of this aircraft, allowing long, no issues for the aircraft.
Not being a pilot myself, I like the very first-hand perspective of what's going on inside the cockpit right now.
Yeah, but Major Raffaello display is taking its reference, approaching display line, pointing us, and then we'll be overbanking and pushing on the stick quite uncomfortably. What a drip of life.
What are we going to see now?
Yes, it will be frontal loop first, and then the reposition of high alpha roll to the right. Starting approximately 300 knots will be a 9G straight roll, and then passing 40 degrees knots high. Using the flight control system to the maximum extent and still changing nose direction very quickly without stressing the aircraft, without passing any limit.
This is the minimum I disturb.
Yes. Turning room capability for room advantage. Repositioning now. Yes, we appreciate it. Let's tune on the flight control system capabilities, and now we'll go to the lateral. Full lateral roll. Stick is far to the left. 1, 2, more than 200.
It's a very peculiar maneuver for us. Because when it comes to reparto sperimentale volo, 3 is the perfect number. The triple aileron roll reminds us of 3 records set by our pilots across history. 3 are the stars, shine the black seeds of the flight test department anthem. 3 names, 3 records still unbeaten. A story of great achievement. The flight test department has made its challenge a projection towards the future. It's a reason for life.
And now coming up the slope flight, so the entire Italian Typhoon display is very technical, meant to demonstrate the best capabilities of the Typhoon. We saw best rate, mean radius turns, continuous rolls at the maximum shippable warp rate. Now we are about to appreciate the highest angle of attack, therefore the slowest speed, flyable, crucial capability when you need to intercept slow mover targets.
Aside from this pilot job, she's driving the boat. photograph right now. It could be at the moment it is one. For Coningsby, the pilot rotates slowly. Not seems to be this an easy trick before. Slow roll requires the Can you add something more?
Yes, so all of this is very first of all, Delta Wing and towards working together and actually something is called from the right to the left will be the slow tunnel. Slightly north side and now pushing on the street to the stage. What about degrees to the left? You see energy for the next one. So pointing up the nose, reversing. Half cubanate will be a 180 bank change, and initially pointing the nose on the ground, using angle of attack not to accelerate, and then finally unleashing the maximum acceleration capability of the Typhoon, gaining up to 500 knots for the next highest load factor 9G turn.
Successful assets in the past and some endued induction and training in UK and Italy share strong alignment with characteristics required for the next generation of air combat systems. The two countries come from experience of a long-standing cooperation, development and supporting combat aircraft within the framework of the NATO and the Eurofighter program confirms awaiting terms. So thanks very much Mattia Micheli for your support. That's it for the Eurofighter Typhoon. That's it for Major Raffaele Desco, Italian test pilot and demo air jockey of 2022 season. He performed his flight demonstration under the skillful ground direction of the 311th Flight Group Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Domenico Di Giulio. Well, it's not over yet. Eurofighter takes much pride in the cockpit. Incorporates a holographic HUD, remotely functional jump display, vortex control, a station dedicated warning panel, and pilot voice input for selecting for more. You can discover more by visiting British FCR4 rotating display. From Mike Palumbo and Matteo Lucarelli, thanks to all, arrivederci.
Ciao. Thank you both, and they'll be back with us very soon indeed, because the third item on our programme today is also from the Reparto Sperimentale Volo, and it is their T346A Master. But before that, it's to the first of our Royal Air Force acts of the day that we turn. It comes from the Rotary World, and Flight Lieutenant Simon Flynn is the commentator.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Flight Lieutenant Simon Flynn, and it is my absolute pleasure to be with you here at RIAT, bringing you the commentary for the 2022 Chinook display. I've just seen the aircraft dip below the horizon as they're getting in to run down the B axis towards Crown Centre, and if you look into the distance, you may just begin to pick up the landing lights heading towards us. During this display season, you'll see us fly one of the UK's most deployed aircraft, the Royal Air Force Chinook helicopter. This aircraft today being one of our Masters Alpha models. The team and I have come here from Royal Air Force Odeon, which is the home of the RIAT Chinook Force, 3 operational squadrons, 7, 18 and 27, with a 4th Unit 28 Squadron at RIAT Benson responsible for converting aircrew onto the Chinook prior to posting. It's an immense privilege for all of us on 27 Squadron to bring you the 2022 Chinook display.
So I can take this off if I want to.
I think so, cool,
And looking into the display area
I mean, that
now,
was a good test there,
to the right-hand side of the hangars, you'll see the aircraft has descended to low level, just above 100 feet, at its cruising speed of 120 knots. The crew will shortly begin their new routine, which has had a few changes from previous seasons.
Yeah, do it that way. To need a holder.
Yeah, something's gone there.
My area is straight ahead now.
Oh,
The aircraft is about a mile out now. You should start to hear the synonymous waka waka sound of the Chinook helicopter.
To see where the plane is, so thanks for putting up with my wobbly camera skills.
So we've got the Chinook display team now, the RAF Chinook display team.
Now make sure you have your cameras ready as you capture a unique view of the aircraft as they ride. They'll be pointing straight at Crown Centre, pulling up for the first manoeuvre, a pedal turn. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen. I give you the 2022 Chinook display. Pointing down back at the ground, the aircraft is now going to brake left for the next manoeuvre, an offset wing over at cloud left. A challenging manoeuvre with the co-pilot Paul today, who's sat on the left-hand seat, not only calling out Kitty's foot angle, roll angle, his height and speed, but also glancing out at the left-hand side, talking him around until Smitty can see his display line. This year, the Chinook display captain is Flight Lieutenant Matt Smythe, known as Schmitty. Schmitty joined the Air Force in 2007 and has been on the 27 Squadron for the past 10 years. He's a training captain and has been all over the world, including Afghanistan, Mali, the Falklands and across Europe. Back in the UK, he was captain of the National Standby aircraft called to support the crisis at Whaley Bridge in 2019. You'll see the aircraft now running in just above 100 feet, back at 120 knots with the crowd on their right-hand side for the next manoeuvre, the roller coaster. Pitching up to 50 degrees until the first nose over. Before they drive back to their main line again. Descending off the cloud line while controlling 15 tons of aircraft, being pushed or pulled by the wind. Joining Schmitty in the cockpit today is Flight Lieutenant Paul Hyton, one of our 2 display co-pilots this season. Paul joined the Air Force in 2010, before converting to the Chinook in 2016. He's deployed to the Falklands, Mali, Offshore, in support of UK operations. A keen drummer and skier whenever he can. The aircraft is now on our right-hand side for a right-hand offset wing over. 30 degrees into the air before rolling right back towards the crowd line. They'll now roll in from the right for a solo nose-over. The manoeuvre is more difficult in this direction as Schmitty can no longer see the crowd line. We'll patch into the radio now and hopefully hear Paul as he directs Schmitty for the next two manoeuvres.
Bye-bye. Ready, enter now. 10, 20, 30.
And now for another pedal turn where we should still hear Paul.
Now. 10, 20, 30. Look. Turn now. Horizon 10, 20, 30, 40, 5. No more. 450, 400, 350, 300, 250, 200, 180, 160. No, good height, good feet.
And back down the crowd line today. Now in the opposite direction, have an excellent view of the ground. Two lanes come fast. The display today demonstrates how surprisingly manoeuvrable this large helicopter is. Most of the manoeuvres are born out of real tactical skills employed on ops around the world. During these manoeuvres, the co-pilot sides are constantly darting around the cockpit looking at aircraft performance, speed, pitch roll, heights, and relaying them to Schmitty in a constant fashion so he can remain eyes out of the cockpit. He's now broken into a left-hand turn, pointing back at the crowd for one of the coolest manoeuvres in the show, a nose-down quick stop, where you can stop the aircraft on a sixpence, an operational manoeuvre for a late spot of troops on the ground. And Schmitty will now fly across cockpit, allowing our crewman, Danny Gilderson, to enjoy the best view in the house. And this is your chance to give him a huge wave as he crosses the display area. He's got the best seat in the house right now. He's got his two orange hands out. Give him a big wave. Gilderson joined the Air Force in 2009 and onto the Chinook in 2016. In 6 years on 27 Squadron, he's deployed to the Falklands, Mali, multiple times, and many exercises around the world. Keen sportsman, he's a squash player who's recently done a 15-kilometre swim for charity. The Chinook has been continuously used by the Air Force as a battlefield helicopter for over 40 years, first seeing action in the Falkland Islands in 1982. And supporting the display this year are our exceptional team of engineers led this weekend by Chief Tech Neil Eaton. Without them and their support and hard work, we simply could not put on this display. And as the crew move left along the crowd, I have a message for Andy from Amy. Andy, tag, you're it. The crew approaching quarter of a mile left of the display basin where they'll be focused on returning the aircraft to a hover. An easy task these days with the digital AFCS. And shortly a full power to fly the aircraft qualifying left pedal taking the Chinook skyward in a journey through rapidly rotating and flying at 800 feet. And off they go, Kingston flying through 405 degrees. Again, another good view of the house. He'll give you a big wave and comes back down. The journey comes through, then it's the full 40 climbing Bosnia, meaning the crews will protect themselves from all directions while the party's landing site at the bottom of the steep valley. He's gone nose down now and back into the spiral descent. All 27 Squadron is extremely proud to be bringing you the display this year. We do this alongside our operational and frontline deployment commitments and conducting our regular duties, training and tasking throughout the UK. So he's going to point straight to the crowd now, roll out, and then do a rapid break to the left to give you the best sound of the Chinook, and hopefully that will take us to the latest back as he rolls left. Now at this point we'd like to give a huge shout out to Schmitty's wife Lex, who's in the crowd today, along with Paul's fiancée Hannah, and all of Paul's family who are here watching as well today. And thank you for the support you show us and the force. And this year the team are proud to highlight the work of the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund does, supporting serving personnel, veterans and the wider RAF family. As the crew repositions for their final wing over, Schmitty can see into the turn, and it's easier to set up for another cool manoeuvre, a running landing along the crowd line. Get your cameras ready as the crew will touch down with the back wheels on the aircraft, a technique used during emergencies or when the aircraft is very heavy, preserving the power of the two engines we have on board. This technique is used, as I said, during emergencies or when very heavy, and after landing the pilot will make subtle control adjustments, control the aircraft 20 degrees nose up, allowing the aircraft to run down the runway into his next party trick. Schmitty's going to bring the aircraft to a complete stop on the back wheels and start to drive and fly the aircraft backwards before lifting for his final goodbye. And for those of you on the left-hand side now, give Paul a big wave. He's in the left-hand seat, looking out the window, I'm sure. And you can see the aircraft has just stopped, and this is his party trick. Reversing backwards down the runway, they'll come towards crowd centre, or the Dayton as we call it. Lift, point to the crowd for his final goodbye. And there we go, please give the crew a final wave as Paul flashes the landing lamp, saying goodbye before departing backwards over the shoulder. Don't forget to enter our photo competition for the chance to win one of our patches for this year. Send your best shots from today's displays, we love looking through them. The email address you'll find on our social media pages. And now we must say goodbye. It's been an absolute pleasure displaying to you today here at RIAT. Our sincere thanks go to the event organisers, Flying Control Committee, and of course all of you for coming out to watch our display. Take care and remember, #BlazeSack, because jet noise is boring.
Thank you very much, Simon and the rest of the Chinook display team. A tremendous demonstration as ever of the twin-rotor heavy-lift helicopter's capabilities. A very warm welcome to you if you've just joined us here on day 3 of RIAT 2022. Great to see you back with us at Fairford. If you've been coming in on the blue route, thank you for your patience in getting in today. It is appreciated. We know that it may have taken you a little longer than you would have liked to get in, but once again we're grateful to you for your forbearance with that, and we hope you all have a great, safe and enjoyable day here. But now our next item is shortly to take to the runway, and it's the familiar voice of Mike Palumbo to introduce it. Mike, over to you once again.
Hello again, this is Mike Palumbo. I'm happy to welcome again as our personal guest of the day, Captain Mattia Nucciarelli. You are test pilot of 346, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I was an operational pilot on the Eurofighter Typhoon for 6 years, and now working at Flight Test Center 311 Flight Test Squadron. We also fly the 346, a beautiful machine.
So you are the right person for this technical support.
Yeah, we'll see. Sorry for the Chinook friends, will be some more jet noise.
So tell us about your aircraft.
Yes, so 346, which is also displayed in a static display here at RIAT, is actually a beauty to fly and a great trainer. It's an advanced trainer, which in Italy is serving as a trainer for pilots who are going to fighters of 4th generation, 5th generation fighters after the basic pilot training, and it's also serving now in many other countries. So Italian training and international training as well in Italy.
Anyway, don't get too carried away, because we are in England, no? And there's a Portuguese obsession about sportsmanship, about fair play. So they usually cheer for the underdog if they are not directly involved. So if you say my aircraft is the best one, they will just start cheering up for the fish and chip van. So we could. I do remember an advertisement here on the telly years ago. Usually it says go compare, go compare. So you could compare, because usually yeahhhh 130 is the aircraft that usually is compared, but due to geopolitical fever it's not one anymore. And usually the Korean T-50 is the natural competitor now. What are the differences between these two aircraft?
Well, while waiting for a second, we can actually address this if you want. So first of all, everything starts from experience. So Typhoon deploys engines, embedded tactical training simulation, which really allows the pilot to train as in a real 4th, 5th gen fighter without having the weight, costs, and maintenance of real stores. In-flight data link for the formation, as well as very simple normal and emergency procedures to conduct the aircraft. Simple maintenance, excellent ground support system for maintenance, troubleshooting, and really low operability costs. What else?
So you're saying that, for instance, it's not as friendly to an experienced pilot because it doesn't feature all this shrink bank or helpful devices?
No, I do confirm. So excellent simulator, really deeply thought